now we'll move on to the item number 25, and we have 2 deputations by appointment, and we're 10 minutes late coming to the 2 deputations, so I do apologise for that, but it was worth it to bring the agenda to the point where we are at the moment. And I'd like to first invite Annabelle Turley, who's presenting on behalf of the Central City Business Association on item 25, COVID Business Recovery Update.
Hello. Thank you very much for having us along today. So Nikki and I are just going to talk to the COVID recovery support that we are wanting to happen for the Central City. The Central City Business Association has 500 members, and we represent a variety of members in the business community. Just, do I click on this to change my slides? Oh, no,
we can do that for you. Just say, you know, change slide or click or whatever. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we would like to collaborate with the Central City, the Christchurch City Council, to stimulate foot traffic and trading in the Central Business District. The latest changes in the pandemic have created a large number of challenges for businesses, and we believe that if we work together, we can create the best outcomes in the current environment to prevent further business closures. Change my slides, please. I'll click. Yep. On the 24th of January, when the red traffic light system came into place, it created a large number of challenges in trading conditions for businesses within the central business districts. A large number of office workers were working from home, businesses were having to accommodate sick staff and staff isolating, as well as businesses managing trading restrictions with fewer customers. Click. Foot traffic in the Central City has dropped as much as 60%. The Central City needs a boost. Businesses have very little resilience after more than 2 years of trading restrictions and lockdowns. We know that parking is always brought up with the council when ever anyone wants help, but we don't believe that free parking is actually going to provide the answers for the businesses. We believe that if free parking is offered, it will simply be used for those who are already coming into the city to work. We believe there is a better use of the council's generosity, and that would be to offer the opportunity for the families of Christchurch to come and explore the Central City using the tram for free. Click. Oh, I'll click again. Small businesses have been affected the most, and the tram is the ideal stimulus for the Central City as it links all businesses in the Central City. An initiative like the free tram over Easter and the school holidays will bring people back into the Central City. We are very supportive of the initiative for the council to pay for the tram operation over Easter and the school holidays. We see this as a great opportunity to bring people from all parts of Christchurch into the Central City and to showcase its offerings. The tram conductors could be used to support as many businesses as possible, rather than just a one-off event like a concert or something like that. So we think that, yeah, it really would be great if the tram could be free for the residents of Christchurch and their families to enjoy the city. Hospitality would also like to see the council sharing the burden of the pandemic, with many of those businesses paying rent in the public spaces that they use. So they would like to see that be offered like free rent for their outside premises. Click. It is also really important that the council supports the businesses in the central city by returning their people back into the office. Our members desperately need office workers in the offices. We would like to see that the council start with their staff and contractors coming back as soon as possible, as this sends a very positive message to other office workers that the city is open and come back to the office and support the businesses.
Right, sorry. Thank you very much for that. We've got time if any councillors have questions, so I need to change the screen. Any questions? Yanni and Mike.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate your concerns around free parking. Do you think in terms of like off-street parking that we should be looking to work with businesses around reducing that cost?
I don't think parking's the issue, Yanni. I think it's really about getting people to come in and enjoy the city and they realise the city's open. I think with free parking or that sort of thing, what it does is it just the people who are already coming to work actually use it, and the visitors don't actually get to enjoy it.
Right, even if it's short term, like if it's still time restricted around a discount or an incentive, like an hour free or something like that.
I think the money is probably better spent on something that will incentivize more people.
Right. And did you have just in terms of the tram, a sense of the cost?
I think there's someone from council who knows what the cost is.
$2.5 grand a day, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
Sorry?
I think it's about $2.5 grand a day.
Yeah. Look, we can talk to that when the substantive report is up.
Council
Cool.
staff will speak to that when we get to the debate on the paper. We're just asking questions directly of the Central City Business Association, and I've got Mike as the next one.
Thank you, Annabelle, for your presentation. Just regarding the tram, if it proves to be successful, would you actually believe we should roll that out through, weekends or all public holidays, school holidays, etc.?
Yes, I think it's a really good chance to see how it goes. And I think we're really lucky with the tram because it does connect all parts of the city. And I think it is a really good opportunity to see what the uptake's like and what the flow-on effect is.
And obviously we've had discussions, council, in the past around the inner city shuttle, which is still ongoing. But would you see potentially that tram as a stopgap measure before that was ever brought back online? If it was free for us?
I think the tram's a way better idea than the shopper bus. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, look, thank you very much for making yourself available at relatively short notice to address the paper, and we appreciate very much the input that you've had all the way through this. It's been fantastic, so thank you very much. And now we'll move on to Peter Morrison, representing Hospitality NZ. And thank you very much, Peter. And just to acknowledge, that this has been a paper that's been worked up out of the COVID response, and so it's been very much focused on the Central City working in a collaboration with Christchurch NZ, but also the CCBA. So there's no intention to leave Hospitality NZ out of the picture, but it was very much focused on what are shared interests, but it'll be very interesting to hear from you as well. So over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora. Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Most of you know who I am. I'm the President of the Hospitality Association Canterbury branch, and I'm also on the National Board of Hospitality New Zealand. We represent 470 members in the Canterbury region, and 360 within the Christchurch City Council boundaries. I'm really here to emphasise the importance of granting this funding today. Sadly, as you've mentioned, Madam Mayor, we've only got involved this week as somehow we were overlooked. But your news line does work, because that's where I saw this was happening. Even though we've been around in this city for over 117 years as the leading association with motels, hotels, restaurants and bars. But Bruce does assure me that this was a big oversight and we look forward to being fully involved. The funding and the suggested programs will be the survival of retail and hospital industries in the Christchurch City. This is how serious this is. It's life or death. Traditionally, a good summer trading allows our members to save to get through the traditionally quieter winter months. As you know, now we have had 2 years of abysmal trading. This will be a saviour for us. That is how serious this is. Both Auckland and Wellington have already activated similar proposals. I fully support Bruce and the rest of the team's submissions, including what Annabelle has just said. The tram is a vital ingredient. You know what it does to Melbourne. Having people in the city, workers, shoppers, all impact on hospitality as well. So the more people working in the city and the more people shopping, seriously impacts on us as well. For your information, the red alert level does not work for hospitality. It is far more costly to operate, even with the increased 200 person level. Without bar service, that means it is too costly. We're only really breaking even. Our members are anything between in the city especially, are down anything between 40 to 50% in turnover. And when they pay all their overheads, it's nothing left. So thank you for allowing me to make the submission. Please take it seriously. Please realise how serious our industries are in. Thank you.
Kia ora. Look, thank you so much, Peter. That's extremely well received. Has anyone got any questions for Peter in response to what they've heard? Yanni.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thanks for the deputation. Just one question that I put to staff, but it would also be good to put to you. I know in the past over Easter's, a number of bars used to get together and run sort of special events because of the special licensing. Is there any support that you think we could look at around people trying to get special licenses to operate through that Easter holiday period that might be of use? Thank you.
Yeah, it's an old problem we have. We've been going for years and years to be able to trade on a normal Easter, like any other trading day. I mean, it's the religious reason, and even though I am an Anglican member, the religious reason when you talk about New Zealand now is not a reason for non-trading on those days. And it's very hard for us to trade on those days. Now, if we really want to make this weekend happen really well and get through this winter, we need to be able to trade. And the local licensing can amend their local laws to give it a lot easier for us to trade.
Thank you very much, and I think we'll take that on board because you know this has been an issue for a long time, and I mean it was when I was back in Parliament, and you know it is actually a failure of successive governments to break the barrier between the shop trading legislation and the liquor licensing, and it's within that framework that we face these problems throughout New Zealand, but even in areas where they have complete free-for-all as far as trading goes, 365 days a year, and there are places like Queenstown that have that, they still come up against the legislative requirements of the liquor licensing. So thank you very much for raising that as an issue too, and we'll do what we can within the framework that exists, and if we can advocate together for the changes that are necessary to create a 21st century environment, recognising that people do need to have a holiday at that time of the year to
Yeah.
make advantage of being able to travel at that time of the year as well. So, so a balance that is required. So look, thank you very much, Peter. It's great to see you, and thank you for making your time available too. And now we'll move straight on to the item in question, which is the COVID business recovery update. And I'll start off with Bruce Rendell. And I think that we've got external collaboration partners, Christchurch NZ, Mike Fisher's online, and obviously the Central City Business Association and Peter's online as well. So we have apologies from the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce as well for this meeting. But if I could hand over to you, Bruce, I'll let you present the paper. Thank you.
And just be apologies from the Property Council as well. We have them involved. So thank you, Leanne. So what you've heard is that the COVID response is having an impact on the community as a whole, but particularly on the business community. And we are seeing, not just in the stories that you've heard today, but in the stats, the reduction in retail spend, particularly in hospitality and particularly in the central city, but it is widespread. We're seeing the reduction in footfall significantly in the central city. And we're hearing from the membership groups and trying to find the stats to support this, that businesses are failing. So this sector is part of our community. They're generally small and medium enterprises, mum and dad operations that are suffering, that they employ people. So you've asked me to work on coming up with some ideas to assist them, both immediately and also starting to look more in a recovery sense through that Easter to winter period and then in summer. Today's discussion is really focused on the immediate responses and the Easter to winter period and the initial work we're doing on there. And we're working very closely with the other partners, and particularly Christchurch NZ into the summer period. And there's a reason why we've separated these timeframes out. And you need to be keeping in mind that we are still in the pandemic. We still need to be thinking about safe, balanced responses at the moment, where we want to help the businesses, but we want to do it in a way that is keeping people safe. So one of the themes that we'll be looking at is getting things started, getting things happening, and then ramping up, particularly over the very quiet winter period. We've tried to take a very collaborative approach, which you've seen in terms of the membership of the group, and my apologies to Hospitality New Zealand for missing them when we rushed to get this started, but they're on board now and we welcome the input that they bring. We've also reached out to other groups as well and hope to bring them on board as their priorities allow. We're not just focused on the central city. We are focused on Christchurch as a whole. We have got some data that suggests that the impact hasn't been as much on the suburban areas as it has been on the central city, but certainly in terms of the immediate response, we are taking that citywide focus. So in terms of the immediate response, we're suggesting that we use a mechanism that is targeted to the sectors that are affected, that's efficient to implement, so that we don't need to spend a lot of time. We can easily identify the amounts and the beneficiaries, and effective in terms particularly of your desire to reach the whole of the city. So we were exploring the idea, and the third part of that was also looking at a reduction in cost approach as the main thing. So we were exploring looking down, waiving a number of fees. Some of those are still possible, particularly the ones like the table and chairs fees, but others we need to explore further on the mechanism, particularly around the licensing fees, both for food and alcohol. But I suppose really for today, what is important is for you to consider whether you want to send a signal and provide some immediate response. And the paper presents a proposal whereby you authorise a amount of money, 1.45 million, that can be used to provide some immediate response to help these businesses. As we then start to look into the Easter to winter period, we're exploring several options in that space, and where we believe that council can help, and has been discussed today, is through a transport initiative to help get things moving. I'm using transport initiative because I can't commit to providing the specific tram until you've made your consideration of the funding. But my next meeting immediately after this meeting is with the CEO of the tram company. We're also looking for funds to assist with promotions so we can start to get information out to the community and get promotions happening. Talking really about seed funding. We'll be working with the partners to be able to see if we can find other mechanisms of funding as well. This is not something that council needs to do on its own, and nor should it. From the work that we're doing, we would see a series of activities on different days and weekends from Easter onwards, trying to get energy and vitality, particularly into the inner city, but also into other areas as well. More information will follow. We're moving quickly, and this is on top of the workload we've already got and other things, but we are moving quickly to get this in place. One of the things about the balance is we are very keen to get and see and encourage workers back into the office in the central city, and that's something we will advocate for. But we have to be careful about the timing of that. We're doing it when we're well past the peak, and those businesses don't see any impact on their business continuity. So those considerations are matters that all organisations will need to be taking into account when they're thinking about returning their offices to the workplace. But we will be certainly encouraging them that as soon as it is safe and that we don't see as many chances for impacts on business continuity, that they get their workers back, and that we work with property owners and the companies to undertake initiatives to do that promotion. So I think I've talked there too long now. I'll hand it back to Leanne to see if we have any questions.
Thank you very much for that. I've got, I can't see the order of things, but I think it was Jake McClellan, Mike Davidson, Jimmy Chen, Yanni Johansson.
It was Mike first, but I'm happy to butt in. In terms of, thanks for this, Bruce. I'm pretty excited about this. In terms of advertising, it's not spelt out in the resolutions. Is that covered as part of the incentives package? Is that still part of the mix, is what I'm asking?
So the promotions is certainly part of the 100,000 seed funding there. We're looking really a lot of trying to use existing networks wherever possible, and some of the work we've been doing is doing that stock take of networks, and then getting the messages. The next part, and really tomorrow's work, is around working out the right messages for those right networks and then getting those out. So advertising may be part of this, but we haven't done any serious analysis about that yet, but we are trying. That's part of what that seed funding in the promotions area is, to help get additional data and advice on that space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Bruce, for this report and the speed of of this. Just a question and around the tram, because I think there's a really huge opportunity. But would a resolution be needed to actually have a look at whether this could be actually extended or be trialled, I guess, for over a couple of years for free use for Christchurch residents during the weekend?
In terms of us getting the information together from that, I've seen the questions that have been coming through from councillors, and that's going to be part of my discussion this afternoon. The decision to implement would need to come back through a resolution later on, but you don't need a resolution for us to hear what you're saying and go and gather the information.
Oh, excellent. So we can expect to get that back about actually having free use on the tram ongoing, not just a one-off hit.
Yep, I'll gather that information and then work with the relevant colleagues to see the best way to get that through to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. Bruce, just one question regarding the COVID business recovery, the plan. You particularly mentioned not only the consider central city but also citywide. You also mentioned suburban area. So I'm concerned this 1.55 million whether can meet those needs. Is cover central city only? Is cover citywide? Also, how to estimate this kind of the cost, and also this cost, where this cost come from?
Yeah. So in terms of the first question, the relief package, the immediate relief package that we're talking about, that is aimed at being across the whole city, so suburban areas as well as Central City Business District, and based or very focused on the hospitality sector. How we've assessed the amount in that is essentially taking a 6-month period and then saying, well, what are the costs that council puts on those businesses that are direct costs, and using that as an estimate of what might be some cost reduction based benefits that we give back to those groups. Oh, so okay. Those businesses.
Thank you. Yanni.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the report. I just, given that Christchurch NZ has obviously got some money sitting aside from events that have been cancelled or postponed, I did put a question through whether they could fund the promotional aspect or some of the funding of the 1.5 million. So have we approached Christchurch NZ for funding?
I've got Christchurch NZ online. Christchurch NZ has been fully engaged in this process with the council staff. So rather than answer your question about where the funding is coming from for that particular component, I don't know, Mike, is this an opportunity for you just to address the role of Christchurch NZ in terms of this plan?
Yeah. Can I just jump in first? So Mike's representing the urban development part of Christchurch NZ in this work, but we also have one of the GMs who is Tracy, who is more involved. Unfortunately, Tracy could not be available today. I think it's unfair for Mike to answer those questions, but we will be having discussions directly with the senior leadership at Christchurch NZ on those points, and it's part of the ongoing discussions.
I definitely was not going to get Mike to answer those questions. I thought that would be inappropriate to do so, but thank you for explaining the difference of the roles. I just wondered if this was an opportunity for Mike to just talk about the aspects of their engagement in this plan. So, Mike, can I just invite you just to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think first off, it's been that collaboration with the council, and thank you, Bruce, for bringing the group together, because it's been a pretty quick exercise to get together and bring the other partners into it, because I think everyone sees that we've got to get through this period, and particularly for us as Christchurch NZ, looking forward to having more visitors into the city, having the city being its best. We need our businesses to be part of that and to be really helping lead that. So I think working with the Chamber of Commerce, CCBA, hospitality is crucial for us to actually show our best city off. So it's been a good exercise with Bruce leading this to say, how can we help in the short term, bring the seed funding to it, think about these activities and activations that we can do to get locals engaged in the cities again, to really bring that business confidence back. So I think we, as Christchurch NZ, it's been great. And as Bruce said, there's been some discussions about how the organisation at large, other parts is beyond my role, I suppose, can get engaged with Bruce and the council in other aspects of it as well. So I think it's just a good opportunity for us to work in partnership with that private sector group and make sure these businesses are there and surviving and trading well into the spring and summertime.
Sorry, I had another question of staff in regards to the just like, I guess like the tram idea is great. I wondered if we'd talk to people like the other places within the cultural precinct, the museum, for example, whether they could run maybe some promotions to attract people to make some of the attractions slightly more affordable, like Ravenscar House Museum, or there might be others as well. And I just wondered also if we'd considered, while I get the free bit in terms of the promotion, but like a gold coin donation that could be put back into a fund to support some of these initiatives.
Yep. Look, we're open to exploring all those kind of ideas, Councillor, and we'll take those on board for our future discussions. And can I just say we haven't responded yet to all of your questions, but we really appreciate the fact that you provided them in writing beforehand, so we were prepared for them. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that.
The final question from me really was just obviously we've talked a lot about the central city, but I'm also mindful, as someone who chaired the Strengthening Communities funding, that we've got major organisations that sit outside of the central city who have been struggling as well. So, places like Arana Park, places like possibly Ferrymead. Are we able to kind of get a link into those other organisations around what sort of support we might be able to look at?
Absolutely. As we said, we're trying to get a stock take of all the networks, so then we can start to send the information out and get information back through those. We're probably not resourced at this stage to get on the phone and ring individual organisations, but we want to be able to send the message out that we're open for discussion, and then let those individual organisations and businesses come back to us.
Thank you.
Cool.
I've got
Thanks.
Phil Major and then Tim Scandra.
Thank you, Bruce, once again, a fantastic report. Hey, have we given, and Annabelle brought it up because I was mad keen on bringing more cheap, free, whatever parking in town, and I fully understand what she's saying, that all the workers will just gobble up all the spaces. Is it possible to do, like Yanni suggested, perhaps one hour free as a sort of a tempter to get more people into town? Would that be hard, or have you talked to Annabelle and Nikki about that?
So in terms of the car parking, we're trying to really target the sector that's affected. And the car parking, free car parking, is not necessarily going to benefit them. It's not targeted to them. And there's no way that we can guarantee that we're getting the support to those who are hurting the most. So that's why we have considered the matter, but have not progressed it further. Where we see that there may be benefit is working with all the car parking providers to help use some of the returns and revenue that they gain to help assist with promotions for other activities, which would then get more people coming in and using those car parks, as well as using the businesses in the city. So that's what we want to focus on, to generate activity rather than necessarily reduce the cost of car parking for those who are already coming in.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you. Tim Scandra.
And thank you, Bruce, for this. I think the comments with regards to let's not think about the parking from Annabelle Turley and Mike Davidson are absolutely right. The tram is a point of difference, and that's what brings people in. I'm just, we talk about CNZ. They do festivals and seems bigger things, but I'm just wondering what the ongoing plan was, because 30 years ago, our council was recognised as the #1 council in this country for bringing people into the central city through events, and they weren't big things; they were just concerts, regular concerts. So we used the jazz school. We have a professional orchestra. We have a youth orchestra. We have the leading musical theatre company in New Zealand, Showbiz Canterbury. Now we've got all this thing, and I don't see anywhere, but this is going to be regular types of concerts to bring people regularly into the central city to support these businesses. Is there anything being thought of along those lines?
So that's probably beyond the scope of the report in front of you, but I'm happy to take that away on notice and again work with my colleagues to come back with a separate answer, maybe through a memo, Councillor.
Thank you, because in the past, we gave Zed their first concert, and they're one of New Zealand's leading bands, and we gave Helen Westenra. She was performing on our streets. So think of the people in the future that we could have and bringing these families in and shoppers in. Thank you.
Aaron Kewen.
Yeah, Bruce, have we considered actually asking the public why they're not using the inner city? Like doing a proper survey and finding out why people are, because we'll get various feedback, but until it's always hard to solve a problem if you don't know.
COVID, isn't it, Aaron?
Sorry?
COVID?
No, I own a business that has lines out the door every week, Jake. So it's not like COVID's not the only reason. It'll be good to find it. Maybe it is. Maybe they're scared of the numbers in the city, whatever it is, but we should know.
Yeah. Look, again, it's probably a matter that that hasn't been forefront of our minds. We're looking specifically, one of the main drivers we've been looking at for the immediate is when is it safe to get office workers back and return to previous levels. I think what you're asking is a much more strategic type question. And again, I think take that on notice, work with my colleagues to see how we could factor that into forward work programs if it's appropriate to do so.
I think Aaron's simply saying that there needs to be an evidence base, and I think that that people have an instinct about what's going on because they see situation normal and then they see situation abnormal, and even with the change in settings, there is a reluctance that's sitting there. I think outdoor businesses are different from indoor businesses, and I think it would be useful to start to get an indication, perhaps from people, about how they feel about different locations and what's driving the decision making. So it's a fair point to raise, Aaron, and I think that's been heard by staff who'll raise it with the wider group. Are there any other questions? It appears not. Do we have somebody who would be in a position to move the adoption of the paper?
Do you want to make mention of Resolution 10?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've noted that in the documentation that went out, there was a Resolution 10, and I took it out of there. Because it referenced it was alcohol harm reduction, I think was the phrase. It is a requirement under the legislation to take these issues into account, and in terms of licensing obligations. And I didn't want to mix up a discretionary focus into a regulatory framework, so I've just taken it out of the paper. So are you still happy to move it, Sarah, on that basis? Yep, good, thank you. And Mike Davidson seconds. So Yanni, you're the first speaker.
Leanne, sorry to interrupt very quickly on that. Do you mind, can I just flag that I won't take part in this?
Oh, yes, sorry. And I meant to say that I've received a note
Sorry.
from James Goff that due to the fact that he is a director of the terraces, that represents a conflict of interest, and I accept that.
It's not a conflict, but easier to be safe. So
Well,
thanks.
it's a perception of conflict, and that is sufficient to see you step aside from the debate. So thank you very much.
Sarah wants to open the debate as the mover.
Oh, sorry. Well, Sarah, did you want to open the debate, or no? You're fine. So Yanni and then Phil Major.
Oh, cool, thank you. I just wanted to flag an additional resolution around 8 that we ask. It says authorise the chief executive to determine best mechanisms to fund and implement initiatives and to commence implementation. And I just wondered if we could also just make a request to Christchurch NZ for financial support. Okay, cool. And look, I just wanted to acknowledge that staff have put this program together at fairly short notice, and I thank you for the work that you're doing. This is really good to see. I think this is kind of what I was hoping, that we could do something similar around the wastewater treatment plant, because I think having a response like this is really inclusive, works with people to address some issues, and puts together a plan to try and mitigate the harm that's happening in the community. I do think that it would be really cool to look at wider than just the central city, and I know staff have given us an undertaking that they will do that. I love the idea of looking at the tram as being being free or discounted, and it might be quite cool to have maybe a card or an Easter special across the city where a number of attractions are offered at a sort of discounted rate to try and get people through the door. I probably do think that it's a bit frustrating around the car parking situation, because we've got our car parking, our off-street car parking buildings sitting at very low capacity, when the private ones that I've looked at have got very high capacity. So it just seems to me that it's a shame not to think about encouraging people to come in and use those buildings, given that they're open, but they're empty. And it would be certainly the feedback I've had from a number of people in the community is that the cost of parking in the central city is a barrier, and so I hope that we can do some more work on that, perhaps through the annual plan, where I know we've asked a number of questions around it. But I just wanted to commend staff for the initiative that they're taking around these events. I think the other really important thing is that, look, we give a huge amount of marketing and promotional and events funding to Christchurch NZ. Obviously a number of significant events that would have attracted people into the central city and into other areas have not been able to happen. And I would hope that instead of having to find new money, that we could simply reallocate some of the existing funding already for a similar purpose to which it was provided, to be put back in to support these sorts of initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's okay with the mover and the seconder, if we, in the resolution 8, authorises the chief executive to determine the best mechanisms to fund and implement these initiatives, if we could add the words including approaching Christchurch NZ for financial contribution. If I've got thumbs up from Sarah, is it thumbs up from Mike Davidson? Yes, it is. So that's included, Yanni, and that's dealt with. Phil Major and then Jake McClellan.
Do you want some water, Leanne?
Thank you, Leanne. This is an extremely good step in the right direction to help out people that are in need at the cutting edge. But about the tram, while we're talking about it, I'd like to see somehow free use of the tram going even further than what Mike was talking about. I agree totally with him, all year for Christchurch residents. It goes most places, and we have been thinking about implementing 2 yellow shuttle buses sometime in the future, and the cost would be high and congestion would be increased, and they are, a number of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars each to buy. We may be better to use some of that perceived cost to subsidise the tram. We should use it more as a mode of transport and not just for tourists, because it is zero emission and we already own the infrastructure. So it's sitting there on our doorstep ready to use. So it'd be nice if the tram rumbled past during the week with office workers going from one end of town to the other, if they had to go from one lawyer to an accountant, or just people could hop on and off. But I don't know how that would affect the tram company. Bruce would have to work carefully with them, but there must be a way that we can somehow do that. Thank you.
Jake McClellan.
Yeah, as local councillor, I'm really pleased to see this package come into effect. Will be put in place today. It's great. I think it tackles it tackles the problem on quite a few fronts with promotions, with communication to local businesses to move workers back into the city. Obviously, with incentives, and the tram is a very good one, and equally in reducing some of the rate burden that businesses in town are suffering from. So in fact, I've been contacted by a local bar owner who highlighted to me that the huge impact this will have on their business. So I guess in that anecdotal respect, we shouldn't underestimate how valuable this will be to our local business community. And just bring on the free trams. I can't wait to see that happen if we get there, and I'm sure we will.
It's lovely, thank you. Tim Scandrett, and then Mike Davidson, and then Sarah Templeton to close the debate.
Thank you. With any kind of marketing and attraction, you want a point of difference. And without question, the trams are a point of difference for the central city. And when we're talking about times as we are in, I don't think those businesses struggling really care if it's the council or CNZ or whoever it is, that we've got an opportunity here to assist and help, and I think we can do. I think we also need to look further in the future, and this is where I don't see any really good planning for this ongoing attractions into our city. As I mentioned before, we've got some of the best talent in New Zealand at our fingertips, and we should be using this as an ongoing planned attraction for the central city, and to work with the CCBA council, and if it is CNZ, then that's fine. But I think that we've got to get back on track and really focus on the central city, and then go out as we did 30 years ago to New Brighton, Hallsville, Hornby. It's all been done before and it worked, and we should be looking at what we had achieved then and re-look at it again and improve it for the modern age. Thank you.
Mike Davidson.
Thank you. I wasn't going to talk, but after all the comments about the tram, it's really pleasing to see already the support around the council table for actually looking at putting on free tram rides. I've already put an email in about actually doing that 7 days a week too, Phil. So I think a lot of us are on the same track to actually looking at something that can move people around. This is not about public transport, it's about city attraction and accessibility, and I think there's a huge opportunity there that we're missing by not taking it. One of the things, and it gets mentioned a lot around the car park, and I think we need to remember that council only manages 20% of the car parking within the CBD, and of the 30-odd thousand, only 900 of them, of the council car parks we manage are off street. So, you look to reduce the car parking there, it's not going to get the same return that we can get if we actually look at better things within the CBD that will actually attract people in there. Thank you.
Sorry, Sarah, I've got Aaron Kewen.
Thank you, Leanne. So supportive of trialling the tram, see how that works as an attraction. I don't disagree with you, Tim, re the points you've raised about having entertainment, but under the current settings, you're just not allowed the numbers of people inside. So it's hard to attract people when they can't go in, and the numbers you are allowed in are non-financially viable. But hopefully that changes soon. I am looking forward to the council doing some work to get evidence-based reasons on why people aren't using what's essentially one of the best inner cities in the world. Like, some of the work that's been done in there is unbelievable. It's a fantastic place. but it's not being used and people aren't going in, yet they are still going to other places. So we need to use evidence for that. And I've got a fear it is access, and Mike, the numbers are correct around the parking that we operate, but let's not forget there's a lot of on-street parking that we've removed in recent years. And if you were operating a business, if you're operating the whole inner city as one business, you would be going, you'd be finding out why people aren't coming in, and then you'd be trying to solve that problem. If it is access, like my suspicion is, and I might not be right, but it's only a suspicion because it's feedback I get from some people, I'll be looking to put low cost or free parking in as many spots as possible, putting it back for a while to get the people in. Once town is busy, then you can put parking up, because that's how a market works, is that you charge once demand's there. So it would be good to see some evidence around that. And if it is accessibility, let's make the inner city accessible, because it's been built. Well, quite a bit of it has, and it's sensational. We just need people to go in there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Sarah, to close off the debate. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. It's really good to see this package coming together. I know that staff have been working on it with a range of organisations for some time now, knowing that this is going to need to happen. I think we all need to recognise that we are not the only city in this situation. Around the world, other cities have been through this, and across the country now, this is what all cities and centres are going through. And that's because we are in the middle of a pandemic. Currently, we are looking at being on what's likely to be our first peak, and there's likely to be others. And so we need to attract people in, but we need to do it sensibly and at the right time, because we know that there will be unintended consequences when it comes to, as Bruce said, business continuity and things, if we are spreading more virus around. A lot of people don't come in because they feel unsafe, and that's a reality of the situation we're in. CCBA, excellent presentation, really good to work with them, and really good to hear from businesses that they agree that the evidence-based approach and a really good investment approach of council is in attracting people into the city, not just giving slightly cheaper parking to those who are already coming in for whatever reason, because we get a much broader impact for more businesses if we do it that way. And yes, we have removed a small number of on-street car parks as part of the redevelopment, but actually we're not the only city to be doing that either, and that's really clear. And also there are more car parks available in the CBD now than there were before the earthquakes. I don't know what it will take for those who keep going on about free parking to start looking at the evidence and hearing from the businesses. But I really hope that this has been really clear from CCBA and others today that we need to be investing in attraction, and we need to be doing that sensibly. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you very much. So I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Thank you very much. That's carried. So we now have the COVID business recovery update recovered. Sorry, James?
If Joe could just note that I didn't take part
yes,
in that.
Yes,
greatly
yes. Yep,
cool.
we did that. Thank you. And that is brings us to lunchtime, and it's 1:03, which is okay. And at 2 o'clock, we will come to the Otakaro Avon River Corridor Co-Governance Establishment Committee paper, item number 26. And just remember that we have the Honourable Chris Finlayson and Tamari Toe in attendance by Zoom. So if we could commence at 2 o'clock. So we'll see you all then. Thank you very much.